Welcome back. You are listening to Three Makes Baby with me, your host, Jana Rupnow, the author of Three Makes Baby and a fertility counselor specializing in alternate family building. If you've been listening for a while, then you know I interview parents that are struggling with infertility and donor-conceived adults talking about their experience being donor-conceived. But before I start that interview, I want to tell you about one more announcement that I've been working on, and that is the Three Makes Baby audiobook. It is now in audio format. You've been asking for this for a long time, and I just have to say thank you so much for your patience. Some of you out there have reached out to me and asked when this was going to be available, and I've been working for you. I want you to know that. And these things always take longer than you expect, but it will be available on various platforms in May. So just around the corner after Donor Conception Awareness Day, you look for some giveaways and some discount codes for the audiobook, Three Makes Baby, How to Parent Your Donor-Conceived Child. Welcome, everyone. I have a guest today on the show that is going to tell you a lot of good information. I will have to say, first of all, her name is B. Well, she goes by B, and she has started a profile, right, on Instagram called Inconceivedable. And her and I have been, we've been talking for hours. We have been talking for hours, haven't we?
We could probably talk for hours. Yep.
There's just a frankness and an honesty and authenticity that I really appreciate. What I want you to hear is her story, because she has this incredible story that you can see both sides of the picture and of the topic we're talking about, which is donor conception and infertility, what this podcast is about, and building family in non-traditional ways, whether it's through donor conception or adoption or surrogacy. I finally got to meet you and talk to you because of this Donor Conception Awareness Day, which is exactly the point. Is starting this day was about connecting and making sure we come together to make a difference in this field. And we can't do that if we're all fragmented. So it's how do we come together? How do we meet each other? How do we start talking and people that are aligned with the same values and the same intentions for this field? So that's how we met, as you reached out and said, I think maybe saw a post, right? And it was an open invitation. So
yeah, I saw that you posted about it. And so I think I just direct messaged you on Instagram, and I was like, I would like to show up and let my story be out there as well, because I am relatively new to this whole, I'm not new to this field, but then I'm also new to this field.
Yeah. And you can tell us about that. What you mean is that you went through a lot to get to where you are. Yeah. Tell us about that.
So first, the first part of my story is I am an infertile person. Okay. So my husband and I had been trying for probably a year and a half before I went to my gynecologist. And I said, I know my mom had some trouble getting pregnant because she had endometriosis. I have endometriosis. And, I've been trying to have a baby for a year and a half. What kind of are the next steps? What can we do? And so she gave me this really hilarious little chart, and I had to go put X's on a calendar. And that was super romantic, super fun. So after we did that for 6 months and charted everything, she said, okay, we're going to start medicated cycles. So then we did, 4 or 5 months of medicated cycles. And of course, that didn't really lead to anything either. So at that point, she decided to refer us over to a fertility clinic. So we went through the whole battery of tests. And what it came down to is that we were going to do IVF. So I had an egg retrieval, and it was very successful. And we're very, very fortunate to have, just on our first IVF try, have such a successful, cycle. And so we were really super thrilled. We transferred 2 embryos, fresh, after that IVF cycle. And I got pregnant for the first time ever. And it was unbelievable. So that whole process was, from the time we started trying to when I first got pregnant was about 5 years. And, I went in with my husband for the first, ultrasound appointment, because you do blood work on, I think it was like day 5 and day 7. And then you go in for your first ultrasound, and then you go in for your second ultrasound, and then you graduate from your clinic, and then you can go to see like an OB, like a real doctor for pregnancy. And so we went in together for the first ultrasound. And so the blood numbers were great. We went in together for the first ultrasound. It was great. And so, I was just like, yes, like IVF solved our problem. Like we just could never make our egg and sperm meet inside my body. But as soon as we created it outside of my body and then put it back in my body, for some reason it worked. Bodies are weird. Bodies are weird. So I, the morning of our like second graduation ultrasound, I sent my husband off to work, and I went in for that ultrasound, and, they got that look in their faces and said I should probably call my husband because there was no heartbeat on the baby that we had just seen 2 weeks earlier with a strong heartbeat. And it was, here we were, like this huge hurdle that took us, 5 years to overcome. Like getting pregnant took us that long to overcome. I didn't know that there would be, I didn't think about that there would be another hurdle after that. So it was like devastating. It was one of the scariest things and the most traumatic things I've ever been through. I had to have a DNC because, my body didn't want to let go. So it's, that was just, it was just such a shock. It was, traumatic. And the thing is I think at the time, the best way I thought to handle it was to get my period back and then instantly transfer again. Like, and I don't remember my doctor ever like questioning that, but I feel like they probably should have. Like I might have benefited from like a small amount of break, but like at that point, you just 5 years of infertility. You want a baby, like you want a baby. And so the second my cycle came back, we transferred tumor embryos, and I got pregnant, and that baby is now 6 years old.
Wow.
And so that was, it was incredible. And I had, it was fine pregnancy, great birth. So when she was, I guess we never used birth control after she was born, because at that point we were like, oh, we're infertile. Like if we have an accident baby, it's free. So we were of course not that lucky to have an accident baby. So by the time she was, I think almost 2, we were sort of talking about using embryos to have a sibling for her. This time I really wanted it to be different. So I was really quiet through my infertility process. Maybe not with my close friends and family, but like I never spoke about it online. Like I never spoke about it kind of publicly. But after she was born, I like talked about how she was a rainbow baby. I actually got a tattoo for the baby that I miscarried. So after she was real, it was really easy to talk about. But there was, at the time, this is, now what is that, 11 years ago? Oh my gosh, wow. As when we started that journey, like it just wasn't talked about the way that it's talked about now. The way that it's true. Even knowing that my parents also had a hard time having me, like, it still was something that, again, I shared with my family knew, and like my relatives knew that I was going through IVF, and like all our close friends did, but I didn't make Facebook posts about it. I really decided that for the sibling, that would be different, because I wanted people to know what the experience was like. I wanted people to know, all these people that I see posting gender reveals and baby showers and, having, 3 to 4 children, all these, people who sort of, I don't want to say like got a head start of me, but, while I was those 5 years trying to get pregnant, like lots of people were having babies, so I wanted to share with all those people, like, look, and not just those people, but like everyone, there's another story. There's another side to this. There's another story of how like babies come around, I don't know. I just wanted to destigmatize the science, behind the shame of the infertility, like, cause it wasn't something that I felt shame about. Like, it was something that like, I was so grateful to science that it gave us, these embryos that we could use. With all that said, I decided for making a sibling, I wanted to essentially share like the entire process. So I did Facebook Lives going to the clinic. I, photographed me giving myself shots. I like talked about how the process worked, and I did that. So we used one embryo. We transferred one embryo. I did the thing that you're not supposed to do, where you tell people when you get a positive test, like the day you get a positive test, like I told the internet, I mean, maybe probably the whole internet wasn't listening, but, and when that test got lighter on day 3 and the blood numbers were not high enough, I told all that too, so I had a chemical pregnancy with that one. And then I went on to have another chemical pregnancy with the second transfer for a sibling. And then the third cycle we did for a sibling, and we did all natural transfers for this for the first and the second, and the third was a natural cycle as well. So the third one was the first time nothing happened. So at that point, I had done, what is that, like 5 cycles? So I had 2, one with my miscarriage, one with my daughter, 2 other ones. So this was my 5th cycle, and it was my first cycle where nothing happened. And because in all my other cycles I had gotten pregnant. So it was really weird to be like, no, wait, this is how I get pregnant. This is science is how I get pregnant. So how did I not get pregnant? So that was,
that makes sense.
Yeah, that was actually a really hard one, even though I had just had 2 like early miscarriages with the other ones. And so I have to say also, these cycles were back to back. So this is like, again, this is another like, where was my mental health counseling here?
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, so I had 2 early miscarriages in a row, and then I had this cycle that nothing happened. And it was just like, and then I still went for that 4th cycle. And I got pregnant, and we graduated again. We had our 2 good blood draws. We had 2 good ultrasounds. And so I waited for that first midwife appointment. I actually got an appointment with the same midwife that delivered my daughter. And, my husband and I did go together this time. But there was and again, this was all like completely open, and I was just completely honest with it online, this whole process. I don't think I Facebook lived the first midwife appointment, but I was planning to like obviously write about it after I had gone through with it. And I think everyone knew that I was going to the midwife appointment that day. So there was a student midwife there, and she had the Doppler, and she was just having kind of a hard time with the Doppler. And I think I was about 12 weeks at that point. So the midwife is like, oh, well, it still sometimes can be difficult to find, things with the Doppler. Like, let me get out this ultrasound machine. So they have this, like, they have a very weird, like ancient technology ultrasound machine, because at this point I had seen so many ultrasounds, like transvaginal ultrasounds, like I know what things look like, and so they pulled it out, and they also like the student midwife just like couldn't get a good view, so they're like, okay, we're going to actually just walk you over, because they have a nicer ultrasound tech walked me over there. And she turned the screen away from me. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, can I, I can't see it. She's she's like, no, I need to send it to someone and then they're going to write a report and then send it to the midwife. And I was like, okay, sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm getting a little nervous, but I'm not like trying not to, panic. And, and so my husband and I get dressed and my husband and I go back into the room. And, this poor midwife, like I have to like, I don't know, at the time I was so angry with her. Because after this fact, I was so angry because, she walked into the room and she didn't tell me with words what had happened because her face said it. And I said, I have another dead baby. And she's like, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And so again, we had lost the heartbeat actually probably a week after that, that graduation ultrasound. The baby had not grown more than a week after that graduation ultrasound. So I had again, my body just held on. And I think I was like, maybe I was even it's like 12 or 13 or 14 weeks that like, and I hadn't had any cramping, hadn't had any bleeding, had totally normal pregnancy symptoms. And I mean,
that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had understandably, I had another DNC, which they accidentally left tissue. So then I had to have another. And it was a very complex kind of recovery. I also struggled with some major mental health issues. I walked into emergency room and told them I was having suicidal thoughts. Like it was serious. Like it was,
oh my God,
it was so scary. And I shared and was open and honest in that online because I thought people needed to hear this. People needed to know what this was like. But, so at the end of the day, so I had this horrific loss. Like I had this horrific loss after 4 cycles. And then, at that point we had 2 embryos left and so we had to make a decision. And I decided that I just, after 4 cycles, of, chemical pregnancies and miscarriage, that I needed to get a different clinic opinion. So we switched clinics and, so my reproductive endocrinologist was super interested in finding out if I had some genetic predispositions for miscarriage. So she actually, and I was also seeing a naturopath that was like super supportive of that as well. Yeah. And so I decided to take a 23andMe test so that, we could run the like raw data through this software so they could like kind of see if I had any BRCA mutations that could possibly cause recurrent miscarriage. So they were just doing such due diligence to give me every shot I had with these like remaining 2 embryos. And I just so appreciate that. So,
that's good.
So when I got my 23andMe results back, I did like the raw download data because that was like the important part. That's why I did it, is for the raw download data so that the reproductive endocrinologist could use that to run it through her thing. And then my naturopath was using it to run it through this other thing. And, so they were cross-checking but there were like a couple weird things that popped up when I had my 23andMe done, but I had my 23andMe done because I was trying to get pregnant and I was going to do anything it took to get pregnant. So the weird stuff that popped up in 23andMe, just ended up sort of getting like dismissed. Like it said, 23andMe told me I had a Jewish grandparent. And I was like, oh yeah, no, I don't think I have a Jewish grandparent. Like, that must be some sort of DNA error. And, or maybe like I have a great grandparent or something, who knows? But,
so you were thinking it was an error, but then did that make you question whether it was going to work, what the information was going to help you find out what was going on with the baby?
No. I didn't. I just questioned maybe their like algorithms were off, right? Like about like heritage, their heritage algorithms, maybe not their like the science is, I believe in the science.
Got it.
Science
Okay.
is good. But, maybe their like genetic heritage, maybe their genetic heritage algorithms were off, right? It was like I wasn't thinking about, I didn't do 23andMe to figure out where I came from, like genetically. Like I didn't do it to figure out where my white ancestors came from. I did it because I wanted to figure out why I kept miscarrying babies. So that was the reason I did it. And so when that came up, it was okay, that's weird, but I just didn't look into it that much. It just didn't seem like a thing that I needed to look into.
Sure. You had other things on your mind, you know?
Yeah. I had other things going on. But there was also a half sibling match at the time. And so I'm an only child. So again, I thought like, oh, weird. This percentage is really low. Again, I guess we probably just have some DNA that matches, but it's a low percentage. This is like weird, but like, I'm sure it's just some error because I know I'm an only child and I know how much my parents struggled to have me and all this and that. And so the match that I had, they actually messaged me. So this is really the only time I only logged on to 23andMe like a couple times. And so they messaged me and said, do you know if your biological father, if your dad, donated sperm? And they said that they were born the year after me. So we were really close in age. And they said that they were born in Southern California, which is also where I was born. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, that's a weird coincidence. Well, I'll ask my dad for you. Oh and so I called my dad and I was like, hey Dad, did you ever donate sperm? And he's like, nope, didn't donate sperm. And I was like, okay, thanks for telling me. And then I went back and I messaged that match and I was like, oh, I'm really sorry, I can't help you, but my dad didn't donate sperm. Good luck in your search. Uh-huh. And I then proceeded to close 23andMe, and that was in 2016. Uh-huh. And I would not open 23andMe again until July of 2020.
So fast forward 4 years later, in July of 2020, B opens up 23andMe and finds out an entirely new story. And you're going to have to wait until the next episode to find out what that is. I'm going to leave you hanging, but not for long. Thanks for listening. If you would like to follow for more content, you can go to my Instagram and Facebook account at Jana Repnow LPC, or follow 3 Makes Baby on Instagram. You can get a copy of my book and the companion workbook to 3 Makes Baby on Amazon. If you like this podcast, be sure to like and subscribe. Have a great day.